Hi there, and welcome to the Awingu 4.2 Environment Rundown. In this video, I will guide you through our demo environment on our latest version, Awingu 4.2. You can request a trial account on our website to test everything that you will see in the next few minutes out for yourself. To use your trial account, visit demo.awingu.com. Now, it speaks for itself that both the login screen and the actual environment are completely rebrandable, so that the end user will think of the solution as the workspace of my company, rather than Awingu. To log in, you simply fill in your credentials and you can sign in to the demo version of our platform. It is important to note that we have disabled multi-factor authentication in our demo environment to make it more accessible, but we have a built-in out-of-the-box MFA that can be used with, for example, Google or Microsoft Authenticator. Furthermore, we support any industry standard form of MFA such as tokens, SMS passcode, etc., including, since Awingu 4.2, time-based passwords. Other than that, you can now also set up pre-authentication via an external IDP. As you can see, Awingu's user interface is very straightforward. On the left-hand side, you see a sidebar that is partially or even fully collapsible. It features three tabs: your workspace, with your most used applications and your most recently opened files, your files, and your applications. Your workspace also features your favorited applications and bookmarked files to optimize your productivity. Clicking your username in the bottom left corner allows you to check your connection quality, edit your account settings such as interface language or keyboard layout, and you can enable guided tours to help you get used to the environment. Since Awingu runs 100% in a browser setting, it can come in handy to do a browser check to see what features your browser does or does not support, for early troubleshooting for example. And lastly, you can open your session in full screen, which is especially useful when you're working on a device with a smaller screen. Clicking the Application tab brings up a list of all published applications that you have been granted access to. You can view them in grid or list view and divide them into categories. Clicking on the Info button opens up the Properties tab, which includes a direct link to the application. This is something we've introduced in 4.2. You can now use this link as, for example, a bookmark or shortcut to immediately open up that specific application in Awingu without having to go through the selection process in the Application tab. For the sake of demonstration, I will open up one of the legacy applications that is installed on our platform, the famous AS400 by IBM. As you can see, it opens and works seamless without any delay, exactly like it would if it were installed on my machine. This geometrical shape right here is our polygon, the navigation tool within Awingu. When clicked upon, you are introduced to several options. Firstly, you can enable or disable the keyboard shortcuts that you see in the top right corner. A lot of legacy programs still use function keys or combinations to perform a certain action, and this serves as a pre-configured one-click keyboard combo. Not very spectacular when you're working on a laptop or a desktop, since you can just use your keyboard, but pressing Ctrl plus F3 on a tablet is of course somewhat of a different story. Secondly, you can choose to share your session, but more on that later. Thirdly, you can close your session, which terminates your current application session. And lastly, you can choose to open the session in a new window. That's especially handy if you're working with multiple screens, so you can run virtually an infinite amount of sessions next to each other. I'll also open up a newer piece of software, for example Microsoft Excel 2016. As you can see, it also opens and works without any delay, and it feels just like I'm working on the Excel that is installed on my device. To improve collaboration, let's share our session. And when doing so, Awingu will generate a unique URL which rights you can configure. For example, is the session only accessible within my domain or outside of my domain? And who gets to control the session? Do we protect it with a password or not? And then you can share that link with a colleague or whoever you're sharing the session with. And he or she has to fill in his or her name and will then get a stream of what is happening in the original session. He or she can even request control of the session and make remote collaboration easier than ever. Printing is often a real struggle for RDP solutions. And at Awingu, we have come up with the virtual printer that generates a PDF in a new local tab. In that way, you can print to any printer of which the drivers are installed on your device or that are connected to your network. And you are then, in fact, printing locally, directly from your device. The great thing about this sidebar is that it functions like a taskbar of the operating system of your choice. You can seamlessly switch between application sessions, just like you would by clicking on your taskbar to switch between programs. To make sure you're not missing out on anything, you can allow a notification to pop up when an action happens within a tabbed out session. For example, when you get an email in your email client. One of our more recent functions is the possibility to reverse proxy and to make internal websites, such as your intranet, your internal CRM or SharePoint, available from the cloud through Awingu. And you can even enable single sign-on for these reverse proxied web applications. Lastly, we also provide users the possibility to stream a full desktop via a published VDI application, if they feel the need to do so. When you head over to the Files tab, you'll see that Awingu has a built-in file explorer, which is linked to your file servers and cloud storage. You can easily find the files you need in two ways, either by favoriting them, which makes them appear in the secondary navigation bar, or by using the in-folder search, which is located in the action bar. The administrator has thorough control over which user or user groups have access to what drive or folder, and the administrator can also decide on the permissions per action a user has per file. An important action is, for example, downloading. More and more, administrators are disabling this on every level to avoid any form of local data copies. You can choose to do any of those actions on any number of files within the same folder you want, by the way. And in Awingu 4.2, we introduced context menus. So now you can simply right-click on a file to view a list of actions that you can perform on that file, much like in most native operating system file explorers. Next to session sharing, we also provide file sharing, and this will once again generate a unique URL that is configurable. Firstly, you can set an expiration date, which will lead to a 404 when the URL is clicked after the set time. Secondly, you can choose whether the receiver gets to see the file in a PDF reader in the browser, or if he or she can download the source file, a PowerPoint X file in this case. Thirdly, you can choose to make the link only accessible to specific logged-in users on the domain of your company or on any network. And lastly, you can choose to protect the share link with a password or not. That link can, in its turn, again be shared with whomever has to receive the file. Users can easily check which files they have shared and choose to make the link invalid, update the expiration time, or update the link, which will give the person who clicks the link the most recent version of the file they refer to. Of course, it is very important for the administrator to know exactly what is going on in their Awingu environment. And that is why we have installed an easy-to-use dashboard, which gives you an overview of all movement in your Awingu environment. Since Awingu 4.0, we provide these insights on a domain-specific level. You can check who is currently online and what session they are running, and then you can choose to terminate or disconnect those sessions, or even save a video recording of what exactly is happening in those sessions. By the way, as of Awingu 4.2, administrators can also trigger session sharing from the dashboard. The result is the same as in regular session sharing, but this makes it so much easier to give support to end users, as you can now initiate the sharing process as an administrator. Furthermore, you can also check which connected servers are up and running, what applications you've published. You can get an overview of how often your applications are used and via what operating system or browser. You are also introduced to very granular auditing on the level of logging in, opening a session, and sharing a file or session. And lastly, we also log anomalies, such as someone logging in with a new browser or opening sessions in two countries at the same time. If you visit awingu.com/try, you also have the possibility to download our Getting Started guide and to deploy an environment with two concurrent users in your own backend to try out the functionalities in your own specific environment with your own specific applications for your own specific needs. If you have any other questions, don't hesitate and reach out to us.